The first thing that happens when she starts to regret losing you is that her mind begins replaying the moments where she felt the safest, the happiest, and the most connected to who you were as a man. At first, she may have believed that walking away gave her more control, more emotional space, or even more clarity. But as time passes and the emotional noise settles, what remains in her mind are the memories of your presence, the way you made her feel understood, valued, and grounded. Women don't regret losing the man who chases and acts needy. They regret losing the man who stayed strong, focused, and aligned with his purpose even when things were falling apart. And it's that strength she remembers when her regret quietly begins. She starts noticing the difference between the men she meets now and the man you used to be. At first, she may have thought she could easily replace the connection, but over time, she begins to realize that finding someone who carries your energy, your composure, and your emotional depth is not simple. Every conversation she has with someone new highlights what's missing, and that absence becomes a reminder of your presence. Women feel regret not based on what you said, but on how you made them feel. And when she sees that other men don't possess your confidence, patience, emotional stability, or masculine presence, regret starts creeping in slowly, quietly, and deeply. There's also a shift that happens inside her emotionally when she notices that you didn't fall apart without her. She thought you'd chase, break down, or give her repeated chances to stay in control, but instead you stayed calm, composed, and focused on your life. That independence challenges her assumptions. When a man stops chasing, a woman starts thinking. When a man remains centered, a woman begins to reflect. And when a man truly values himself, a woman begins to question whether she undervalued him. This is where the regret starts transforming into curiosity. She begins checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you, or simply noticing your absence more intensely than she expected. Her regret also grows as she realizes that the emotional safety she felt with you is not common. When a woman loses a man who remained consistent, supportive, and emotionally intelligent, she feels the void more deeply than she admits. At first, she might try to distract herself, work, friends, social events, temporary attention from others, but none of it fills the emotional gap. That emptiness is when regret becomes real. She may not say it out loud, but she feels it. Over time, she recognizes that losing you wasn't just losing a person, it was losing a certain kind of stability, trust, and connection. And when she sees you rising, growing, improving, and living with confidence, the regret intensifies because now she realizes she lost the version of you she didn't appreciate, and someone else may receive the better version she helped create. In the end, regret begins the moment she realizes your absence brought her more pain than your presence ever did. When a woman begins to regret losing you, the first thing that shifts inside her isn't her words or her actions, it's her emotional awareness. She starts to notice the absence of the energy you used to bring into her life. That quiet strength, that reliability, that calm masculine presence she once took for granted suddenly becomes something she realizes isn't replaced easily. And it's in these small moments of silence, when you're no longer trying to impress her, chase her, or fix things, that her mind begins to replay the memories she thought she had already moved past. A woman's emotional memory is strong and it doesn't fade quickly. It waits, it lingers, it resurfaces when she least expects it. This happens especially when she starts interacting with other people and realizes they don't give her the same emotional experience she once felt with you. She begins to compare without meaning to. Your confidence, your tone of voice, the way you handled challenges, the way you looked at her, these things stay embedded in her subconscious. And the more she notices the difference between what she had and what she's experiencing now, the more she begins to question her decision. Regret begins quietly, slowly. It starts with subtle curiosity, a small spark of wondering if she misjudged you or misread the situation. She might not admit this out loud, but she feels it internally. As she starts to feel this regret, she becomes more sensitive to your absence. She notices your growth, your confidence, the way you've become more focused and less affected by her decisions. This is the moment where many women truly feel the emotional weight of losing a man who was valuable, because now she's not comparing you to who you were. She's comparing you to other men and realizing that what you offered was rare. Stability, calmness, direction, purpose, things that aren't easy to replace. And the moment she sees you maintaining your standards without trying to win her back is the moment regret becomes real. What surprises her most is how quickly you found your balance again. She expected you to chase, to collapse emotionally, to try proving your worth. But instead, you stepped back, improved yourself, and quietly moved forward. That shift challenges her ego, her expectations, and even her identity in the relationship. It forces her to see you differently, not as the man she walked away from, but as the man she underestimated. And this shift is powerful because it makes her question whether she still has access to you, whether she still matters to you, and whether she lost something meaningful by letting you go. As these emotions intensify, she starts to feel the internal pull, the desire to reach out, the urge to reconnect, the curiosity about your life. And even if she doesn't act on it immediately, the emotional tension grows. She begins to realize that losing you wasn't freedom, was a mistake she didn't expect to feel this deeply. And that realization becomes the beginning of her regret. When a woman begins to regret losing you, one of the first things that shifts is her emotional awareness. She starts comparing who you were to the men she meets now, and the difference becomes impossible for her to ignore. At first, she might have convinced herself that moving on was the right decision, that she needed distance, or that she would find someone who understood her better. But as time passes, she realizes that real connection is rare, and the bond she had with you wasn't something she can easily replicate. This realization doesn't hit her instantly, it grows slowly, quietly in the background of her life. Every moment she spends around men who lack your maturity, patience, emotional stability, or consistency reminds her of what she walked away from. And that internal comparison starts influencing her thoughts in ways she didn't expect. She begins replaying the good moments in her mind, sometimes unintentionally, a song, a place, a conversation with a friend. All of it triggers memories of you. These aren't just nostalgic thoughts, they are emotional reminders that you made her feel safe, understood, and valued in a way others haven't. Women rarely forget a man who provided genuine emotional presence. She might have been frustrated with something in the moment or influenced by temporary emotions when she chose to step away. But once the dust settles, the depth of what she had becomes clearer. Her heart remembers what her mind tried to rationalize away. In these moments, she also becomes more aware of her own role in the breakup. Regret often brings reflection, and reflection leads her to evaluate the decisions she made, the things she said, and the way she behaved. Notices where she overreacted, where she walked away too quickly, or where she let fear, pride, or ego dictate her choices. This self awareness can be uncomfortable for her because it forces her to acknowledge she may have misjudged you or given up too easily on something meaningful. She becomes quieter, more thoughtful, and more observant, not just of you, but of herself and her patterns. As this emotional shift continues, she begins wondering if you've changed or grown since she left. Women secretly hope that the man they once cared about is evolving into the best version of himself. When they see signs that you're focused, disciplined, and moving forward without bitterness or desperation, it intensifies their regret. Emotional growth in a man is attractive on a deep, instinctive level. It signals maturity, strength, a long term potential. Your calm, stable energy forces her to question whether she misjudged your long term value. This internal battle between her pride and her heart creates emotional tension. She might not act on it right away, but she becomes more curious, more observant your life, and more affected by your silence than she shows. Her regret isn't just about losing you, it's about losing the version of herself that she felt when she was with you. And that realization hits harder than anything else. When she starts regretting losing you, one of the first internal battles she faces is comparison. And this comparison isn't casual or small, it hits her deeply, especially when she starts interacting with new guys. At first, she may have convinced herself that moving on would be easy, that she'd find someone better, someone who checks all the boxes. But when reality hits, she begins to notice the difference between how you showed up and how others fall short. Suddenly, the things she once took for granted become the things she misses the most. Your consistency, your emotional presence, your leadership, your calm energy, these qualities become the measuring stick for every man she encounters, and it becomes painfully clear that what she had with you isn't something she can easily replace. The truth is that emotional connection is rare. You don't build real chemistry with everyone, and she slowly starts to realize this as time passes. She meets guys who try too hard, guys who move too fast, guys who play games, guys who lack emotional maturity, and each one reminds her of what she walked away from. The more she compares, the more the regret settles in. She starts noticing how differently you treated her. You listen. You understood her emotional language. You didn't crumble under pressure. You didn't compete with her. You led with strength. These qualities make her reflect, and reflection turns into longing. What really intensifies the regret is that she doesn't see you chasing. She doesn't see you begging for another chance. She doesn't see you trying to prove anything. Instead, she watches you living your life, improving, becoming stronger, becoming more composed and self sufficient. That contrast makes her comparisons even heavier because now she's comparing not just to other men, but to the new version of you. And that version is more confident, more stable, and more attractive than the one she originally walked away from. Slowly, she starts replaying memories in her mind. She remembers how safe she felt around you. She remembers how comfortable it was to open up to you. She remembers the moments when you made her laugh without trying. These memories become emotional anchors, pulling her mind back to you when she least expects it. And the more she compares, the more she realizes that the emotional understanding and connection you offered isn't something she can force with someone new. This comparison becomes a silent reminder that she underestimated your value. And that realization, once it hits, is powerful because it shifts the dynamic completely. She no longer sees you as just another guy from her past. She begins to see you as the man she may have lost because she didn't recognize what she had. And that's where regret begins to grow deeper than she ever expected. When she begins to regret losing you, one of the clearest signs appears in the way she pays attention to your transformation. Women are incredibly intuitive. They notice subtle shifts long before they say a word. When a man who once felt lost, confused, or emotionally affected begins to reclaim his power, she senses it immediately. It might be the way you carry yourself differently, the confidence in your voice, or the calm control in your actions. It might be the lack of urgency in your energy, the way you stop chasing, stop over explaining, stop trying to convince her of your worth. When you redirect that energy back into yourself, something powerful happens. You grow, and nothing triggers a woman's regret faster than witnessing the man she walked away from becoming the man she always hoped he would be. That's why your personal growth isn't just about getting her back. It's about becoming the strongest version of yourself. When you invest in your goals, sharpen your mind, upgrade your lifestyle, and build emotional maturity, you naturally create distance from the version of yourself she left behind. This creates contrast, the most powerful force in attraction. Women respond deeply to contrast because it makes them reflect on their decisions. She starts remembering how she felt around you, what she admired, and what she underestimated. She may even start comparing you to the people around her, and in that comparison, she begins to realize the value she lost. The silence and space you allowed give her room to feel this contrast. You didn't chase, you didn't beg, you didn't show desperation. Instead, you showed growth. And that's when her mind starts to wander. She wonders what changed you. She wonders why you're so calm. She wonders why you're suddenly harder to reach, harder to read, and harder to replace. Women regret losing a man not because he suddenly becomes perfect, because he becomes consistent, grounded, and emotionally strong, the very qualities she wasn't sure you had before. And as she watches your evolution from afar, something else happens: curiosity. Curiosity is powerful because it leads her to pay closer attention. She might check your social media more often, ask mutual friends about you, or even subtly try to re enter your life. She might not express regret directly, but her behavior becomes warmer, softer, or more cautious. Women rarely articulate regret up front. They show it through interest, effort, and emotional openness. When she starts to respond differently, when her energy shifts from distant to attentive, that's when you know she sees your value again. But the key is this: her regret should never be your mission. Your mission is to become the man you were always meant to be: confident, emotionally centered, purpose driven, and unshakable. When you grow from the inside out, regret becomes a natural consequence, not a goal. And by the time she realizes what she lost, you may already be standing in a better place, surrounded by better opportunities, and aligned with a better version of yourself. In the end, her regret is simply the echo of your growth. One of the most overlooked but powerful truths about relationships is that regret doesn't appear immediately, it develops subtly over time. When a woman realizes she has lost someone who truly added value to her life, she doesn't always confront it openly. Often it starts as a quiet awareness, a subtle longing, or even random memories that make her pause and reflect. She remembers the emotional security, the laughter, the sense of being understood, and the moments where you consistently showed confidence and integrity. Men often underestimate this, assuming that if she hasn't reached out immediately, she doesn't care. In reality, regret is quietly building, often at a subconscious level, and it grows as she begins to see what she truly lost. A key element to understand is how absence amplifies her awareness of your value. When you continue living your life fully, pursuing goals, maintaining social connections, and staying emotionally independent, it naturally highlights what she has lost. Your calm confidence, emotional stability, and high value presence are reminders of what she can no longer take for granted. This contrast between her current experience and the life you are creating draws her attention and triggers introspection. She starts comparing her life without you to the emotional fulfillment and support she once had, and that comparison often leads to profound regret. Another important factor is emotional memory. Women tend to remember feelings more vividly than words or material experiences. Even small gestures, moments of understanding, or ways you made her feel safe and respected are etched into her subconscious. When she notices that these emotional connections are missing in her current life, it sparks reflection. She may try to rationalize it initially, but the emotional imprint you left is undeniable. Men who understand this principle realize that their actions, consistency, and emotional leadership during the relationship create a lasting impression that cannot be easily replaced. It's also essential to recognize the difference between her pride and her feelings. Many women hesitate to admit regret right away because of pride, fear, or wanting to appear independent. They may act indifferent or even slightly distant to protect themselves. However, beneath that exterior, feelings of longing and loss often simmer quietly. Men who misinterpret this behavior as lack of interest risk acting out of fear or desperate, which only diminishes their value. The key is to maintain composure, confidence, and a high value lifestyle, allowing her feelings to surface naturally without pressure. Another subtle but powerful principle is the role of curiosity and comparison. She may start noticing other men or situations and unconsciously compare them to you. This process often deepens regret because she realizes that the qualities she admired in you, emotional intelligence, consistency, and self respect, are rare and difficult to replace. Observing you thriving independently rather than chasing or pleading increases this effect exponentially. Ultimately, recognizing that regret is a natural emotional process allows you to stay patient, confident, and grounded. Your focus remains on being high value, maintaining your life, and showing emotional maturity. When she finally fully acknowledges what she has lost, is often your calm strength, self respect, and unwavering presence that draws her back or creates lasting admiration. In the end, regret is not something to rush or manipulate. It is a natural consequence of true value and emotional impact. Stay confident, live your life fully, and let your worth speak for itself.